World's Greatest Medical Failures. This article is written by John Barron for Baseline Health Foundation. The failure of diabetes treatments. Standard medical treatment offers several flawed approaches. The major problem with metformin is its effect on the gastrointestinal system, ranging from a mild loss of appetite to nausea, vomiting, abdominal discomfort, cramps, flatulence, and diarrhea. Many patients find these symptoms impossible to cope with and discontinue the tablets within days. Glyburide is so effective that you need to carry glucose pills with you in case you produce so much insulin that your blood sugar drops too low and you fall into a diabetic coma. Although this rarely happens, it's indicative of the larger problems with glyburide. It raises insulin levels so high that your body faces all of the problems of high insulin levels discussed above. It doesn't repair beta cells, it just forces them to work harder, thus speeding up the day when they break down and become dysfunctional. Extra insulin in the form of pills or injections cover you when the beta cells in your pancreas have burned out and can no longer produce sufficient insulin by themselves, or even when stimulated by drugs such as glyburide. Until that is, your body's insulin resistance is so high that no amount of insulin is adequate for the task at hand. At that point, your body goes into rapid decay. And when all is said and done, it should be noted that a huge study published earlier this year found that aggressively using these drugs to lower blood sugar levels actually resulted in an increased risk of death. The more they were used, the greater the risk. 1st of March 2011. Poor diagnosis and ineffective treatment are putting people in England and Scotland at risk of early death from diabetes, according to a study. Overall, the researchers from the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington found that a country's relative wealth had no bearing on the standard of diagnosis or treatment of diabetes. In all surveys, only a small fraction of individuals with diabetes met treatment targets. The United States was the best performer, with about 26% of individuals with diabetes meeting the treatment targets. In Colombia, 27% of men and 24% of women were meeting the targets. The researchers found that England and Scotland were among the worst performers. Diabetes care in Britain isn't up to scratch, according to the National Diabetes Audit. Out of all the people that have sought diabetes care, only a third were offered a urine test to rule out diabetes-related kidney diseases. The number of diabetics needing dialysis or kidney transplant has doubled over the last 6 years due to poor diabetes care. Only half of those with type 2 diabetes received all the recommended diabetes care processes, while only a third with type 1 diabetes got proper treatment. Diabetes UK, the charity for people suffering from diabetes, was appalled by the findings of the National Diabetes Audit. Government report glosses over diabetes care findings UK. Recent figures reveal 1 in 10 deaths in England can be attributed to diabetes, with the figure nearly doubling in deprived areas. The condition causes 100 amputations a week, and there were 3,000 accident emergency admissions of children with diabetes in 2007, an 8% rise on the previous year. In view of such outcomes and the fact that the number of people with diabetes is set to double to 4 million by 2020, this report paints too rosy a picture of the current standard of diabetes care. It should also be noted that these reports are about the UK, but in fact there's similar information for diabetes care in the USA and generally throughout the world. Care is just not good enough. Still not sure it's for you? Still want to leave all the responsibility of your life-threatening condition with your doctor and your health service? Here are some more thoughts for you. When diabetes is not well managed, it's associated with serious complications, including heart disease, stroke, blindness, kidney disease, nerve damage, and amputations, leading to disability and premature death. By the time they're diagnosed, half of the people with type 2 diabetes show signs of complications. Cardiovascular disease is a major cause of death and disability in people with diabetes, accounting for 44% of fatalities in people with type 1 and 52% in people with type 2. Adults with diabetes have heart disease death rates about 2 to 4 times higher than adults without diabetes. The risk for stroke is 2 to 4 times higher among people with diabetes. People with diabetes are 10 to 20 times more likely to go blind than people without. Diabetes is the leading cause of blindness in people of working age in the UK. It's estimated there are 4,200 people in England who are blind due to diabetic retinopathy. This increases by 1,280 people each year. Almost 1 in 3 people with type 2 diabetes develops overt kidney disease. Diabetes is the single most common cause of end-stage renal disease. Kidney disease accounts for 21% of deaths in type 1 diabetes and 11% of deaths in type 2. Diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure, accounting for 44% of new cases in 2005. Neuropathies or nerve damage may affect up to 50% of patients with diabetes. About 60 to 70% of people with diabetes have mild to severe forms of nervous system damage. Diabetes is the most common cause of lower limb amputations. 100 people a week lose a toe, foot or lower limb due to diabetes. The rate of leg amputations in people with diabetes is over 15 times higher than in people without. Astonishingly, up to 70% of people die within 5 years of having an amputation as a result of diabetes. The prevalence of depression is approximately twice as high in people with diabetes as it is in the general population. A study in men over 40 in Kuwait found that about a third of men newly diagnosed with diabetes had erectile dysfunction. Babies of women with diabetes are 5 times as likely to be stillborn, 3 times as likely to die in their first months of life, twice as likely to have a major congenital abnormality. I felt strongly that this was the time to take back the responsibility for my diabetes from my doctors. They talked about illness, complications and death. I felt it was time to be positive. So I started to research, and I mean research. I read and sifted through everything I could find on the internet, much like you are now. There was much rubbish out there as well as wacky ideas that you Americans call out there. Eventually, I found a small book which claimed to have the answer and would get me to reverse my diabetes. The more I read, the more I investigated. I thought there is something here. It was a bit like a signpost, this book. It showed me other places to go. So I bought books on the internet, I read, and the writings by eminent people who have a combined research of over 100 years in this field. It encouraged me to look into the areas that would yield what I craved, a way to reverse the damage done and rebuild my life. So what could you achieve? Well, I can tell you what I've achieved. My greatest gains have been in the areas of medication, sugar levels, eye health, and weight loss. When I started, I was running at levels of about 25. With the program, I managed to get an average of 7.2. Traditionally, my HbA1c was running at 11, 12 and 13, and that big drop did cause some consternation at the GPs, and they were rather interested to know how I managed to do that. If you follow the program, I'm hoping you will find out for yourself and be inspired and feel like there is hope again, and you don't have to wind down with diabetes. That was my big fear. I dropped my metformin in stages, 4 stages actually, down to 0 with testing in between. Intensive testing, and I couldn't really see any difference. There was no problem. I did the same with glimepiride. I halved it, but I couldn't do away with it, and I actually found it was better to take it at bedtime for the morning readings. I also stopped taking the statins. My triglycerides had dropped. In fact, everything dropped. I had another test and they confirmed I could stop taking the Ramipil as there was no kidney damage. The eye health side of things was really dynamic. During the program, I went back to see my eye specialist, and he looked at my eyes and he said, "I don't understand what's happening here, Mr. Faulkner, at all. I'll have to go and check the originals of the last time." And he went to have a look, and he came back, and he said, "I don't know what's happening here because you've reversed all the eye damage in one eye and almost all in the other eye. Your eyes look really very good. They're so far away from where they were last time." And for those of you like me who are overweight, during the 3 months intensive, I lost 2 stone. I've continued to lose a little more weight since then, and I've kept it all off. So all in all, with a tiny bit of medication, some supplementation, better lifestyle, with a little bit of non-invasive exercise, I find I've managed to transform myself, and I'd really like to inspire you to do the same. My husband put me on your lifestyle and diet program. Within 2 weeks, I lost 3 kilo or 6.6 pounds in weight. My diabetes is now in remission after a detox period. My eye specialist said the damage behind my eyes from 20 years of diabetes is gone as well. No more glaucoma. I'm pinching myself hoping that this will all last. I have only been doing this lifestyle and diet for 10 weeks, and everyone I know has commented on my newfound disposition. Also, my husband has lost 15 pounds and he no longer needs his high blood pressure medication. He stopped all his medications. 2 months ago, my husband and I were shocked when our family doctor informed us he thought our 6-year-old son Gabriel had type 1 diabetes. The paediatric endocrinologist we referred to was reasonably sure he had the disease. Although the specialist said we detected it early, he estimated that Gabriel would be insulin dependent within 6 months. When we asked if there was anything we could do, the doctor assured us there's no way to prevent the onset of type 1 diabetes. We would just have to wait for the disease to run its course. Our hearts were grieving for our precious son. We immediately began learning all we could about type 1 diabetes. I'm an RN and I've studied health alternatives and nutrition. I began scouring the internet and researching sources I've studied. Gabriel began drinking what he calls green power. We began the alkaline diet immediately. His blood sugar levels dropped to within normal range and have remained normal. Gabriel says he feels so much better. Overall, his flagging energy has returned to its previous vitality. That testimony was from Dan and Sally, and they're now on the team to advise and support, particularly those with type 1 children. This in turn will significantly boost your energy levels and hence improve your overall health and quality of life. I personally use an alkaline lifestyle every day and recommend it wholeheartedly to everyone I meet. That was Anthony Aurelius, the UK's #1 fitness expert and the patron of fitness and exercise well-being for the NHS. Each of us does have a say and can play a role in our personal health. Where the NHS said there was no hope, I now look forward to a long and healthy life. I'd love to give that hope and inspiration to others. It's a fact. 96% of all cases of diabetes can be treated and reversed naturally with the right lifestyle and diet. I'm often asked the question, why are we doing this? Put simply, we care about you and we want to ensure that you do not die of ignorance. Our main interest is anti-aging, and we consider that has 2 radii, inside as well as outside. And what's the point of looking good and being taken early by a disease that can be reversed? I founded Radius to share the wealth of personal experience that I've gained in fighting my diabetes. Radius Anti-Aging is an international distributor of wellness products that address the radius of aging, what's going on inside our bodies, and the skin that we present to the world. Radius alkalizing supplements and treatments are proven to improve overall health and vitality, as well as fight major health concerns like diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. I have committed all this to a complete program, the Radius Reverse Diabetes Program, and I want to share it with you today. We all know that getting in early on anything is a bold move. So I'll not only provide the successful program, but also a series of amazing bonuses to thank you for your commitment. I ask only one thing in return. You record your progress on the program and provide anonymous feedback for the good of all the community. Initially, we will rely on emails and spreadsheets, but Radius will be tapping into the power of the new Google resource, Google Health. We want to build the largest community of self-helpers in the world to help you and everyone in the community. So what do you need to get started and succeed?